Welcome, dear friends. Today, I will share with you a captivating tale of resilience, discovery, and the unwavering strength of family bonds, even in the face of the greatest challenges. Enjoy the story.
The mournful wail of train whistles and the distant clatter of wheels against tracks filled the air of the deserted railway station. Nora awoke from her uneasy sleep, her makeshift bed of old newspapers and discarded blankets offering scant comfort against the cold. She rubbed her eyes, the first light of dawn casting a pale glow across the crumbling remnants of the station that had become her refuge. As she sat up, Nora's mind wandered to the void of her past. Her memories, as far as she could recall, started when Emily, a former social worker and now her closest friend, found her abandoned and injured on the station platform. Emily had nursed Nora back to health, her skills in caregiving proving invaluable. But despite Nora's physical recovery, the scars on her mind remained. Emily had cautioned her to stay hidden, convinced that those who had harmed her might still be searching. Nora sighed, pushing aside thoughts of her enigmatic past. She had to live her life, even if it was pieced together from the remnants of society. With a groan, she rose to her feet, ready to face another day in the realm of the forgotten. The bustling streets of the nearby market were already alive with activity as Nora wove her way through the crowd, her sharp eyes scanning for any opportunity. She had learned that survival often meant taking what she needed, and today she needed information. Her gaze landed on a bulletin board covered with flyers and notices. She skimmed through them, her heart racing as she imagined the events they advertised: community fairs, business meetings, family reunions. Each one a potential windfall for a skilled pickpocket like herself. As she studied the notices, Nora couldn't help but critique the planning of the events. Cupcakes at a business mixer? Amateurs, she muttered. In another life, she mused, she might have been a party planner. Her stomach growled, reminding her that she hadn't eaten since the previous day. Spotting a food cart, Nora deftly swiped a sandwich from a distracted customer, savoring the taste as she continued her reconnaissance. A discarded newspaper caught her eye, and Nora eagerly snatched it up. She pored over the pages, absorbing every bit of information that might be useful. There, nestled among the articles, was an advertisement that made her heart skip a beat. "Summer Carnival," it read, promising a day of games, food, and entertainment. Nora grinned, tucking the newspaper under her arm. This was exactly what she had been looking for. "A carnival?" Emily asked skeptically, her brow furrowed as she examined the advertisement Nora had thrust into her hands. "You want us to pickpocket at a family event?" "Think about it," Nora urged, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "All those people, their guard down, their pockets ripe for the picking. It's the perfect opportunity." Emily sighed, running a hand through her short graying hair. "I don't know, Nora. It seems risky. What if we get caught?" "We won't," Nora assured her, confidence brimming in her voice. "We're the best in the business, remember? And besides, we need this. Summer won't last forever, and we can't rely on the station to provide for us." Emily's resolve wavered, and then she finally nodded. "All right, fine. But we do this my way, understand? We scope out the place first, identify our targets, and then get in and out as quickly as possible." Nora grinned, throwing her arms around Emily in a fierce hug. "You're the best, you know that?" Emily chuckled, patting Nora's back. Yeah. Don't go getting all sentimental on me now. We've got work to do." The morning of the summer carnival dawned bright and warm, the air tinged with the scent of fresh popcorn and cotton candy. Nora and Emily emerged from their shelter, their usual ragged appearance transformed by the clothes and makeup they had carefully acquired. Nora twirled in her sundress, relishing the feel of the soft fabric against her skin. Beside her, Emily looked equally transformed in a smart blouse and skirt, her face made up to hide the hardships of her life. "We look good," Nora grinned, linking her arm with Emily's. "No one will suspect a thing." Emily nodded, her expression serious. "Just remember the plan. We mingle, observe, and strike when the time is right, and if anything goes wrong, we'll meet back here. Understood?" "Understood," Nora confirmed, her heart racing with anticipation. "Let's do this." By the time they arrived at the carnival, it was in full swing. The sounds of laughter and music filled the air, mingling with the mouth-watering aromas of carnival food. They wandered through the stalls, their eyes peeled for likely targets, their hands itching to relieve the unsuspecting crowd of their valuables. Nora's gaze landed on a man in his late 30s, his expensive watch and the bulge of his wallet in his pocket marking him as a prime target. She nudged Emily, tilting her head towards the man. "What do you think? Easy pickings?" Emily studied the man for a moment, then nodded. "Looks like it. But be careful, Nora. He's got that look about him, like he's not someone to mess with." Nora grinned, a thrill of excitement coursing through her veins. "Don't worry about me. I've got this." With a final wink at Emily, Nora made her way towards the man, her steps casual and unhurried. As she drew near, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was something familiar about him, as if she had seen his face before. Pushing the unsettling thought aside, she focused on the task at hand. With a deft flick of her wrist, she lifted the wallet from the man's pocket, her fingers closing around the soft leather. She was just about to turn away when the man's hand clamped down on her wrist, his grip like iron. Nora's heart leaped into her throat, panic surging through her veins. She looked up, meeting the man's intense green eyes, and felt a jolt of recognition. "I know you," she whispered, her voice trembling. "How do I know you?" The man's expression softened, his grip loosening. "Nora," he breathed, his voice thick with emotion. "Is it really you?" Nora wrenched her arm free, stumbling backward. "I'm not Nora," she insisted, her voice rising in panic. "I'm Lena. I don't know you." With a final terrified glance, she turned and fled, the man's voice calling after her. Nora burst into the shelter, her chest heaving, the stolen wallet clutched tightly to her chest. Emily looked up from the small fire she had built, her expression shifting from annoyance to concern as she took in Nora's wild-eyed appearance. "What happened?" she demanded, rising to her feet. "Did someone see you?" Nora shook her head, sinking to the ground beside the fire. "No, it's not that. It's Emily. I think I knew him, the man I stole from. He called me Nora." Emily's eyes widened, her face paling. "That's impossible. You don't know anyone from before. We've been over this." Nora held out the wallet, her hands shaking. "Look inside. There's a picture." Emily took the wallet gingerly as if it might explode. She opened it, her breath catching as she pulled out a small, worn photograph. It showed the man from the carnival, his arm around a smiling woman holding a baby. The woman looked exactly like Nora. Emily looked up, her eyes meeting Nora's. "This is you," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You have a family, a husband, a child." Nora shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "No, that's not possible. I can't." She broke off, sobbing as Emily gathered her into her arms, holding her tightly as she wept for the life she had lost and the memories that remained just out of reach. The sound of heavy footsteps outside the shelter jolted them from their shock. They looked up to see Roy, the self-proclaimed leader of the homeless community, looming in the doorway, his face twisted with anger. Well, well, well," he sneered, his eyes landing on the open wallet in Emily's hands. "Stealing from the carnival, were we?" Nora leaped to her feet, her fists clenched. "It's none of your business, Roy. We don't answer to you." Roy's face darkened, his lips curling into a snarl. "Everything that happens here is my business. You know the rules. Any score you bring to me. I decide who gets what." Emily stood beside Nora, her expression hard. "The rules are different this time, Roy. This wallet belongs to Nora. It's a part of her past." Roy barked out a harsh laugh. "Her past? What past? She's got no past, no future, just like the rest of us. Now hand over the wallet, or things will get ugly." Nora shook her head, clutching the wallet tighter. "No, I won't let you take this from me. It's all I have left." Roy's face contorted with rage, and before Nora could react, he lashed out, his fist connecting with the side of her head in a brutal blow. She crumpled to the ground, stars exploding behind her eyes. Dimly, she heard Emily shouting and saw her friend launch herself at Roy in a furious attack. "Run, Nora!" Emily screamed, grappling with the much larger and "Get out of here!" Nora staggered to her feet, clutching the wallet to her chest. With a final anguished look at Emily, she turned and fled, stumbling through the debris as she ran blindly towards the city, towards the only clue she had to her forgotten life. Nora wandered through the carnival grounds, her head throbbing, her heart heavy with despair. She had searched for hours, hoping to catch a glimpse of the man whose wallet she had stolen, the man who seemed to hold the key to her past. But he was nowhere to be found. Exhausted and heartsick, Nora sank onto the steps of a shuttered shop, burying her face in her hands as the tears began to flow. She had been so close to finding out who she was, and now it seemed she had lost her only chance. "Excuse me, miss. Are you okay?" The voice was young, high-pitched with concern. Nora looked up to see a little girl standing before her, her bright green eyes wide with worry. She looked to be about 5 or 6 years old, with a cascade of curly brown hair and a sprinkle of freckles across her nose. Nora hastily wiped away her tears, forcing a smile. "I'm fine, sweetie. Just a little tired, that's all." The girl cocked her head, studying her intently. "You look like the lady in my daddy's picture," she said, her voice filled with wonder. "The one he keeps in his wallet." Nora's heart stuttered in her chest, her eyes widening. "Your daddy? What's your daddy's name?" The girl grinned, her small chest puffing up with pride. "Eric. Eric Mason. He's the best daddy in the whole world." Nora felt as if the ground had dropped out from beneath her feet. Eric Mason, the man from the carnival, the man who had called her Nora. She reached out, grasping the girl's small hand in her own. "Can you take me to your daddy, sweetheart? I think he might be looking for me." The girl nodded eagerly, tugging her to her feet. "Come on, miss. He's just over there by the Ferris wheel." Nora allowed herself to be led through the crowd, her heart pounding, her palms slick with sweat. And then, suddenly, there he was, Eric Mason, the man from the photograph, the man who held the key to her past. He looked up as they approached, his eyes widening in shock and disbelief. "Nora?" he whispered, his voice breaking. "Is it really you?" Nora felt the tears well up again, spilling down her cheeks. "I think so," she managed, her voice trembling. "I don't remember everything, but I want to. I want to remember." Eric reached out, pulling her into a fierce embrace, his own tears mingling with hers. "I thought I'd lost you," he murmured, his voice muffled against her hair. "I never stopped looking, never stopped hoping." They clung to each other, the little girl watching in confusion and delight as the pieces of Nora's shattered life slowly began to fall back into place. The house was cozy and welcoming, with a wide front porch and a neatly kept garden. Nora stood on the threshold, her heart in her throat as Eric unlocked the door and ushered her inside. "Welcome home, Nora," he said softly, his hand resting on the small of her back. "Welcome home." Nora stepped into the foyer, her eyes wide with wonder. Everything was so familiar, yet so strange. The photographs on the walls, the comfy armchair in the corner, the scent of lavender and cinnamon that filled the air. It was like walking into a dream, a half-remembered fantasy come to life. Eric led her into the living room, where a kind-faced woman sat on the sofa, reading a book. She looked up as they entered, her face breaking into a wide smile. "Oh, Nora," she breathed, tears springing to her eyes. "I knew you'd come back to us. I just knew it." Nora felt a lump rise in her throat, her heart swelling with emotion. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice trembling. I don't remember." The woman stood, crossing the room to gather Nora into a warm embrace. "It's all right, sweetheart. We'll help you remember. We'll help you find your way back to us." Eric nodded, his eyes shining with tears. "I've already called Dr. Parker. He's the best neurologist in the city. He'll be here first thing in the morning to see if we can start piecing together what happened." Nora felt a wave of gratitude wash over her, her heart aching with the love and support she had been missing for so long. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for not giving up on me." Eric pulled her close, pressing a tender kiss to her forehead. "I could never give up on you, Nora. You're my whole world, you and Lily. You're everything to me." The little girl, Lily, wriggled out of the woman's arms and ran to Nora, throwing her small arms around her waist. "I missed you, Mommy," she mumbled, her face pressed against Nora's stomach. "I missed you so much." Nora felt the tears spill down her cheeks as she sank to her knees, gathering her daughter into her arms. "I missed you too, baby," she whispered, her heart overflowing with love. "I missed you too." The days passed in a blur of doctor visits and therapy sessions, of long, late-night conversations with Eric and Lily, of slow, painful progress as the shattered pieces of Nora's memory began to come together. She learned that she was Nora Mason, a successful event planner and devoted mother and wife. She learned of the life she had built with Eric, of the love they had shared. As Nora's memories returned, So too did the dark truth of what had happened to her. She remembered the threats, the intimidation, the fear that had ruled her life before her attack. "It was Coleman," she told Eric one evening, her voice trembling with anger and fear. "He wanted me to use my business to launder money for him, to help him expand his criminal empire. When I refused, he said he'd make me pay." Eric's face darkened with rage, his fists clenching at his sides. "I'll kill him," he growled, his voice low and deadly. "I'll make him suffer for what he did to you." Nora shook her head, laying a calming hand on his arm. "No, Eric, we have to do this the right way. We have to go to the police and make sure Coleman pays for his crimes." Eric hesitated, then nodded, drawing her into a fierce embrace. "You're right, my love. We'll do this together the right way. I won't let him hurt you again. I swear it." The police station was bustling with activity as Nora and Eric made their way inside, their hands clasped tightly together. They had spent hours going over Nora's story, making sure they had every detail right, every piece of evidence they could gather. The detective who took their statement was a seasoned officer, his face lined with years of hard-won experience. He listened intently as Nora recounted her ordeal, his eyes narrowing with each new revelation. "This Coleman character, he's a real piece of work," he growled, his voice thick with disgust. "We've been trying to nail him for years, but he's always managed to slip through our fingers." Nora felt a flicker of fear, her heart sinking. "So there's nothing you can do?" she asked, her voice small and defeated. The detective shook his head, a grim smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Oh, we'll do something, all right. With your testimony, we've got enough to put Coleman away for a long, long time. He's not going to hurt anyone else, not on my watch." Nora felt a wave of relief wash over her, her shoulders sagging as the weight of her burden finally began to lift. "Thank you, Detective. Thank you for believing me." The detective nodded, his eyes softening with compassion. "You're a brave woman, Mrs. Mason, a survivor. And I promise you, we'll make sure you get the justice you deserve." Nora stood outside the homeless encampment, her heart pounding in her chest. It had been months since she had last seen Emily, months since she had left her old life behind, but she knew she could never truly move on until she made things right with the woman who had saved her life. Eric stood beside her, his arm wrapped protectively around her waist. "Are you sure about this, Nora?" he asked softly. His eyes filled with concern. "We can always come back another day." Nora shook her head, steeling herself for what lay ahead. "No, I need to do this now. I owe her so much, Eric. I can't just walk away." With a deep breath, she stepped forward, picking her way through the maze of makeshift shelters and discarded debris. "Emily," she called out, her voice echoing through the eerie stillness. "Emily, are you here?" For a long moment there was no response. Then slowly a figure emerged from the shadows, her face gaunt and haggard, her eyes wide with shock and disbelief. "Nora?" Emily whispered, her voice cracking with emotion. "Is that really you?" Nora felt the tears well up in her eyes, a lump rising in her throat. "It's me, Emily, but my name, my real name, is Nora Mason." Emily's face crumpled, tears streaming down her cheeks as she stumbled forward, throwing her arms around Nora in a fierce, desperate embrace. "I thought I'd lost you," she sobbed, her body shaking with the force of her emotions. "I thought I'd never see you again." Nora held her tightly, her own tears mingling with Emily's. "I'm here, Emily. I'm here, and I'm never leaving you again, I promise." Emily pulled back, her face a mask of confusion and fear. "But what about Roy? What about the rules? If he finds out you're here?" Nora shook her head, a fierce determination settling over her features. "Roy can't hurt us anymore, Emily. None of them can, because you're coming with me. You're going to be a part of my family, just like you always should have been." Emily's eyes widened, hope and disbelief warring in their depths. You want me to come with you? To live with you and your family?" Nora nodded, a smile breaking through her tears. "I don't want to just live with you, Emily. I want you to be my sister, my real true sister. The way it always should have been." Emily let out a choked sob, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks as she nodded, her face splitting into a watery smile. "I'd like that, Nora. I'd like that more than anything in the world." The sun shone down on the Mason house, bathing the wide front porch in a warm, golden glow. Nora sat in the porch swing, Lily nestled in her lap, her small face peaceful in sleep. Beside her, Eric and Emily chatted quietly, their laughter mingling with the gentle rustling of the leaves in the breeze. Nora felt a deep, unshakable sense of contentment settle over her, a feeling of rightness and belonging that she had never known before. She had fought so hard to find her way back to this moment, to the family she had lost and the love she had never known she needed. And now here she was, surrounded by the people she loved most in the world, her heart full to bursting with joy and gratitude. She knew there would still be challenges ahead, that the scars of her past would never truly fade. But with Eric, Emily, and Lily by her side, she knew she could face anything and overcome anything. She was home, truly home at last, and she knew with a bone-deep certainty that she would never, ever let it go again.